It's back to acting class for this lot. Welcome to WatchMojo UK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 movies damaged by dodgy British acting. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. A piece of bad acting can be a dent in a great film's armor, or it can throw fuel onto the flames of an already bad one. For this list, we'll be looking at the instances where films were hampered thanks to a performance by a Brit actor. Number 10, Roger Moore, A View to a Kill.
Well, the trip back from Siberia took a lot out of me.
Perhaps not so much for the performance itself, but just the fact that Roger Moore was simply too old to be playing Bond at all. Maybe if the film was presented as a gritty, Unforgiven type movie, with this being Bond's final mission, Moore's age of 57 would have made more sense. Instead, it wasn't acknowledged, and 007 was simply portrayed as still being in his prime.
Well, are you, buying or selling?
Moore was, by his own admission, older than his love interest's mother, and at times it showed. Producers recast the role for the next film and finally netted the much younger Timothy Dalton. Number 9, James Corden, Peter Rabbit.
Alright, this is our land now, so let's not go crazy straight away.
Quite frankly, James Corden's reputation precedes him at this point. Some will just never be able to embrace any of his performances, despite the award-winning Gavin and Stacey, though he didn't exactly help himself by starring in Lesbian Vampire Killers.
No explosion or turning into burning ash or nothing, no?
For his critics, while watching Peter Rabbit, it was hard to hear Peter and not Corden. James doing his normal everyday voice didn't do much to enhance the suspension of disbelief or make the Beatrix Potter favourite feel especially likeable. This was all on top of some personality traits that fans thought were out of character for the iconic Rabbit.
Stop using it as a crutch!
Number 8, Idris Elba, The Dark Tower.
When I was younger, I would recite the Gunslinger's Creed.
A surprise entry on this list, as Idris Elba is usually pretty solid in most things he stars in. People love the guy. But The Dark Tower will always be a blip on his resume, as Elba's performance does nothing to enhance an already underwhelming movie.
I don't want any trouble.
Well, then you're smarter than most.
He wasn't the only one at fault, mind you, as Academy Award winner Matthew McConaughey didn't fare much better as the film's antagonist.
Tall, dark, and handsome is about to crash the party.
The below-par acting, combined with everything else, assured this one never spawned the franchise that it was intended to.
But I saw you.
Your dreams deceived you, boy. Told you what you want to hear.
Number 7, Orlando Bloom, Kingdom of Heaven.
There will be no quarter.
While Orlando Bloom nailed it as a supporting character in the Lord of the Rings movies, playing the badass elf Legolas of course, he didn't quite have the chops to carry a 3-hour epic as the lead. Coming off the likes of Gladiator, there was high hopes for director Ridley Scott's historical action drama, The Kingdom of Heaven. But those were hopes it didn't really fulfill.
No man ever needed a new world more. Imagine your sin and pain erased.
As with Gladiator, the historical accuracy is up for debate, but regardless, critics and audiences agreed that Bloom wasn't the ideal casting choice for the story's hero, lacking the rough magnetism of a Russell Crowe.
I want nothing.
Number 6, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Godzilla.
Why didn't you just kill it when you had the chance?
Another leading man issue here, as Aaron Taylor Johnson just wasn't able to display any of the lovable charm he exerted as DIY superhero Kick-Ass for 2014's Godzilla. As such, he was overshadowed by fan favourite Bryan Cranston, who portrayed his father. Unfortunately, Cranston wasn't given nearly enough screen time, and so the bulk of the movie fell onto Aaron's shoulders, who didn't exactly take the baton and run with it.
A monster.
Most agreed his performance was dull and lifeless. When you're outperformed by a giant CGI beast, you must be doing something wrong.
I don't want to hear this.
Number 5, Vinnie Jones, X-Men The Last Stand.
Don't you know who I am?
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
X-Men The Last Stand is already considered one of the weaker installments of the mutant film series for numerous reasons. And Vinnie Jones' turn as the villainous brute Juggernaut is certainly one of the contributing factors to the film's poor reputation. The ex-football hardman isn't exactly Shakespearean trained and can seem a bit out of place in anything outside of a Guy Ritchie British gangster flick. Fortunately, Deadpool 2 has since given us a comic-accurate interpretation of the character to help erase the painful memories of Jones's attempt.
I'm the wrong guy to play hide and seek with.
Number 4, Eddie Redmayne, Jupiter Ascending.
I create life!
Where do you go after winning an Oscar? Why, you follow suit of many great British actors and ham it up as a corny villain in a big-budget blockbuster, of course. That was the path of Eddie Redmayne at least, as after his award-winning portrayal of Professor Stephen Hawking in The Theory of Everything, he leaped into the role of Balaam Abrasax for the Wachowskis' Jupiter Ascending.
You should have stayed dead.
To give him the benefit of the doubt, perhaps Eddie thought he was starring in a purposefully cheesy sci-fi spoof, or perhaps we should just forget about it and move on. Number 3, Sean Connery, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Take your...
Too soon.
Regretfully, Sean Connery's career went out on a whimper rather than with a bang.
That I know. And Nigel has done a grand job reminding me.
It could have been worse, mind you. At least he didn't retire after 1998's The Avengers.
You all know who I am. And I know all of you.
Instead, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was Connery's less than ideal swan song. An infamously troubled production led to Connery being at odds with the film's director, Stephen Norrington, and Sean's displeasure with behind-the-scenes proceedings reflected in his acting, resulting in a far from perfect performance. Connery's wig wasn't the only thing wrong with this, but it was a big part of the problem.
You've done terrible things in England. So terrible that you fled the country.
Number 2, Kate Winslet, The Divergent Series.
It's hard to let go.
What was hoped to be the next Hunger Games instead ended up getting its 4th and final planned installment cancelled due to a lack of box office success. The Divergent series tried, but ultimately failed.
The future belongs to those who know where they belong.
Even with Kate Winslet on board, this sinking ship of a franchise couldn't be steered to safety. Perhaps Winslet just saddled up with the series for the paychecks, or maybe she's just fundamentally too nice to play a convincing villain. Either way, her turn as the series baddie, Janine Matthews, was notably underwhelming.
But that's exactly the weakness we need to overcome.
Number 1, Gerard Butler, Geostorm.
This is my life's work, Max.
Deemed derivative and asynchronous, Geostorm arrived a couple of decades too late. Had it predated the likes of Armageddon and The Day After Tomorrow, it may have actually seemed original, and the CGI may have seemed acceptable. As it was pretty rubbish.
Why didn't you tell them about the drive?
Because someone just tried to kill me.
The stellar cast failed to rescue things as well, with lead Gerard Butler going through the motions and seemingly playing the same role he usually does, all too far removed from his glory days of 300.
This is Sparta!
Butler's point-blank refusal to be anything other than a bland, brooding, forgettable hero earns him the top spot here. The negative forecasts for this movie proved all too accurate.
This sucks.
Yeah, seriously, this is so boring.
You know what? I can't do this for another second.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.